The bass from the speakers trembled through the marble floor, vibrating beneath my heels as the crowd beyond the velvet ropes pulsed with anticipation. My name, glowed in silver letters across the entrance arch. The Madison Grant Foundation Annual VIP Gala. Cameras flashed, champagne flowed, and the air smelled faintly of roses and expensive cologne. I smoothed a hand over the satin of my midnight blue gown, feeling the cool silk slide against my skin. Outwardly, I was composed, every inch the host. Inside, though, I carried an ironic smile only I understood. Because just beyond the ropes, at the check-in desk, I heard them. Their names carried over the buzz of the crowd. Familiar, sharp, unforgettable. The same people who once rolled their eyes when I invited them to something so small, so humble, the very first event I ever dared to host. Back then, they laughed, declined, pretended they were too busy. I remember how much it stung. Tonight, they weren't laughing. Tonight, security leaned in, shaking heads politely, denying them access. Their expressions flickered, confusion, then indignation, then a dawning realization as their eyes searched for me. And there I was, standing center stage in the life they never believed I could build. My phone buzzed in my clutch. A message. Their names again. A request. A plea. And with it, the past I'd tried so hard to bury came rushing back. I took a deep breath, shoulders back, lips curved into a smile meant for the cameras, but my heart whispered, they refused me once. Now the door refuses them. I wasn't always the woman commanding a ballroom. Once, I was just a 22-year-old girl in a borrowed blazer, clutching homemade invitations I'd printed at the campus library. It was my first event, nothing glamorous, just a small networking mixer for young professionals I was desperate to pull together. I believed it could be the start of something real, a spark for my career in event management. I spent weeks planning, handwritten notes, a thrift store dress pressed within an inch of its life, cheap wine I couldn't really afford. I remember standing outside that little downtown cafe, the glass door trembling every time someone walked in. My hands were clammy as I passed the invitations to people I thought were friends, people like Rachel and Tyler, my old college classmates. Come by Saturday, I said with what I thought was confidence. It'll be fun, a chance to connect, maybe make something out of nothing. They looked at me as if I were a child holding a lemonade stand. Rachel smirked, exchanging a glance with Tyler. Oh, Maddie, that's cute, she said. But honestly, we're busy. You know how it is. Maybe next time. Her tone cut deeper than the words. The way she patted my arm, like I was a little sister playing dress-up, made my throat tighten. Tyler added, networking? With who? A bunch of kids who don't know what they're doing. They laughed as they walked away, leaving me standing there with my stack of invites suddenly feeling like scraps of paper. That night, after most people didn't show, I sat in the dim cafe with 3 empty tables and the bitter taste of humiliation. My hands shook as I packed up leftover cheese cubes and unopened bottles of soda. My chest ached, not just from failure, but from the realization that the people I longed to impress didn't even see me. And yet, amid the sting, I remembered my grandmother's words. Before she passed, she gave me a silver bracelet, engraved inside with a single phrase, "You are enough." I ran my thumb across those words that night, sitting alone in the dark cafe, fighting back tears. My grandmother had believed in me when no one else did. And in that moment, the humiliation burned into something else, resolve. I stood, slipping the bracelet onto my wrist, and whispered to myself, if they won't stand with me, I'll stand alone. That was the night I stopped waiting for their approval. That was the night I promised myself, one day, they'll see me. The years that followed weren't glamorous. Success, for me, started in the quiet hours when no one was watching. I worked 2 jobs, one as an assistant at a cramped event planning firm in Brooklyn, the other as a waitress at a noisy diner that smelled perpetually of burnt coffee. My shifts blurred into each other, and most nights I fell asleep at my tiny studio apartment with my laptop still glowing on my stomach. There were times I doubted everything. Times when my bank account was down to double digits, when rejection emails piled higher than the bills on my kitchen counter. I remember one particularly cold night, crying silently into a bowl of instant noodles, wondering if Rachel and Tyler were right, if I was just a girl playing pretend. Then came Elaine. She was a senior planner at the firm, a woman with sharp eyes and a softer heart than she let on. One night, after I stayed late redoing an entire seating chart no one asked me to fix, she walked by my desk and paused. "You've got an eye for this," she said simply, tapping the chart. "Don't waste it." That was all. For words. But they lit something in me. From then on, Elaine became my quiet mentor. She showed me how to negotiate contracts, how to read people's expectations before they spoke them, how to think 3 steps ahead when chaos hit. It wasn't easy. I stumbled. Once, I double-booked a venue and nearly had a breakdown hiding in the bathroom. My mascara streaked across my cheeks. Another time, a client insulted me to my face. "Sweetheart, get your boss, I don't talk business with interns." I swallowed the sting, took notes, and promised myself I'd never make someone feel that small. But there were victories too. My first solo event, a charity dinner with 50 guests, wasn't perfect, but it ran smoothly. At the end, the client shook my hand and said, "We'll call you again." That night, I clutched my grandmother's bracelet and cried, not from pain this time, but from pride. Slowly, opportunities grew. Elaine eventually recommended me to one of her big clients, and from there, my reputation began to take shape. I learned to market myself online, but only in measured ways, never revealing too much, never flaunting what I was building. When old friends asked, I'd shrug. "Just keeping busy," I'd say, hiding the long nights and the contracts I was quietly winning. Because part of me still carried that scar, the memory of Rachel's smirk, Tyler's laugh. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of watching me struggle. My success would stay private until it was undeniable. And so, year by year, event by event, my world transformed. The girl in the thrift store blazer became the woman who could command entire ballrooms. But I never forgot that first rejection or the bracelet that reminded me who I was. The ballroom shimmered with golden light. Crystal chandeliers spilled fire across polished marble, and a string quartet played softly beneath the hum of conversation. Everywhere I turned, there were faces I once only dreamed of working with: executives, philanthropists, artists. This wasn't just an event. It was my event. And then, at the far end of the room, I saw the commotion. Rachel and Tyler. Even after all these years, I recognized them instantly. Rachel's glossy hair, her designer dress, everything carefully curated, though her expression betrayed frustration. Tyler stood beside her, red-faced, arguing with security as though his voice alone could bend the rules. I moved closer, unseen for the moment, my heart pounding, not from fear, but from something sharper, cleaner. Irony. "I don't think you understand," Rachel snapped at the attendant holding the guest list. "We know people here. Just check again." The security guard's voice was calm but firm. "Your names aren't on the list. Without an invitation, no entry." Her lips parted, indignant. "That's ridiculous. Madison must want us here. We're practically—" And then her eyes landed on me. I stood framed by the ballroom doors, the midnight blue silk of my gown flowing around me, my grandmother's silver bracelet catching the light. For a heartbeat, silence stretched between us. Rachel's face shifted, recognition, disbelief, then something sour, almost like panic. Tyler's mouth opened, but no words came out. "Madison." Rachel finally breathed. You're hosting this?" I smiled, slow and steady, letting the moment hang. "Yes. Welcome to my gala." Behind me, the ballroom glittered with everything they once told me I'd never reach. The brand logos, the stage with my name, the press snapping photos of CEOs waiting to speak with me. I stepped closer, my heels clicking like punctuation marks on the marble. "Funny," I said softly, "I seem to remember inviting you once. To something small, something humble, and you refused." Color drained from Rachel's face. Tyler shifted uncomfortably, tugging at his cufflinks. That was years ago, he muttered. We didn't mean anything by it. But I remembered. The smirk. The laugh. The sting that carved itself into my memory. Security glanced at me, waiting for instruction. I could have waved them in, let them blend into the crowd. Instead, I let the silence stretch a little longer, savoring the reversal of power. You know, I said, tilting my head, this is a VIP event. Invitations only. Rachel's eyes darted between me and the guard, desperation creeping into her voice. Madison, come on. We've known each other forever. Just let us in. Her words rang with entitlement, not apology. I drew a breath, scanning the ballroom behind me. The chandeliers, the laughter, the life I built out of sleepless nights and silent tears. My success wasn't theirs to waltz into. With a small smile, I shook my head. No invitation, no entry. Those are the rules. Gasps rippled through the nearby crowd as they realized who I was addressing. Cameras turned, whispers spread. For the first time, Rachel and Tyler weren't the ones laughing. They were the spectacle. Their faces, stunned, pale, hollowed by the weight of realization, were a mirror of every moment they once made me feel small. And yet, as I stood there, I felt no need to humiliate them further. I simply turned back toward the ballroom, my gown sweeping the floor, and said over my shoulder, "Enjoy the evening from outside." And with that, the doors closed behind me, sealing them out of the world they once told me I'd never belong to. They didn't give up easily. An hour later, while I mingled with investors and posed for photographs, a staff member discreetly approached me. "Ms. Grant," he murmured, "there are 2 guests outside who insist on speaking with you. Rachel and Tyler." Of course. I excused myself, stepping into the quiet marble corridor that led to the entrance. There they were, Rachel's arms folded tight, her eyes flashing with a cocktail of indignation and desperation. Tyler hovered beside her, his confidence dimmed. "Madison, please," Rachel began, her tone brittle. "You've made your point. We shouldn't have dismissed you back then. But you can't really mean to keep us out tonight." Her words landed like hollow coins. No apology. Just entitlement disguised as civility. I met her gaze evenly. "This isn't about revenge, Rachel. This is about respect. And you've never shown me any." Tyler finally spoke, softer than I'd ever heard him. "Look, we were wrong. We didn't believe in you. And well, we should have. Clearly." He gestured helplessly toward the ballroom doors, where the glow of chandeliers spilled through the cracks. "You've built something incredible." For a moment, silence stretched. My heart tugged between the sting of old wounds and the woman I'd become. I folded my arms, letting the bracelet press cool against my wrist. "If you want to be part of my world now, it won't be on your terms. It will be on mine." Rachel's chin lifted defensively. "And what exactly does that mean?" I drew a steady breath, my voice even but firm. "It means no more mocking people who dare to dream. It means supporting, not tearing down. It means doing something with your own lives instead of stepping on others to feel taller." Tyler shifted, shame flickering across his face. Rachel, however, scoffed. "You expect us to what? Change who we are?" "Yes," I said simply. "Or stay out. My circle is small, and it's built on respect, growth, and honesty. If you can't offer that, then the velvet ropes will always be closed to you." The weight of my words lingered. For once, they didn't have a clever comeback. Tyler finally nodded, his voice low. "You're right. I'll try. I don't want to keep being that guy." Rachel looked at him like he betrayed her, then turned her sharp eyes back to me. But instead of another retort, she stayed silent. Maybe she knew there was nothing left to say. I softened my tone, not out of weakness but strength. "I don't need you to worship me. I just need you to respect what I've built, and to respect yourselves enough to build something of your own." For the first time in years, I felt no trace of that desperate girl begging for their approval. I wasn't seeking validation. I was setting terms. Whether they stepped up to them or walked away was no longer my burden to carry. I didn't see Rachel or Tyler again that night. Word traveled, of course, Whispers carried through the crowd about the confrontation at the doors, but inside the ballroom, it hardly mattered. The night was a success, the contract signed, the donations pledged. My world had outgrown their absence. Still, later, as the final guests trickled out and the music softened to silence, I stepped onto the empty dance floor and let myself breathe. The chandeliers glittered above me like 1,000 tiny stars, reflecting in the polished floor at my feet. I thought about the girl I once was, the one clutching flimsy invitations outside a cafe, trembling when her voice wavered, fighting tears when rejection cut too deep. I wished I could hold her hand, tell her it will hurt, but you'll survive. You'll be more than fine. You'll be unstoppable. My fingers brushed against my grandmother's bracelet, cool and steady against my skin. You are enough. The engraving had faded over time, but its truth had only grown stronger. A week later, I received a letter in the mail, handwritten, from Tyler. He admitted he had been arrogant, blind, that watching me stand firm had cracked something open in him. He wanted to do better, to build, not belittle. He thanked me for not shutting the door on him completely. Rachel never reached out. And that was fine. Not everyone belongs in the next chapter of your story. As for me, I moved forward lighter than before. Hosting more galas, building partnerships, creating spaces where young dreamers could be seen and celebrated instead of dismissed. I became the mentor I once needed, the one who said, "Don't waste it." Because the truth is, success means little without meaning. And mine was never about proving Rachel or Tyler wrong. It was about proving myself right. That night, standing alone in the golden glow of the ballroom, I smiled. They refused my invite once. I whispered into the empty room, voice steady, sure. And then the door refused them. The words lingered like a vow, a closing line etched in light and memory. And for the first time, I felt not just victorious, but free.